Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag-and-drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show.
So my father-in-law, wonderful person, for Christmas bought me a Blu-ray that I was hoping to get.
Oh, what was it?
It was Once Upon a Time in America.
Okay.
The extended edition, so it's got the longer cut of the film. Except for some reason, and Christmas came, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't know why it didn't arrive yet." And so the next day he came over. He's like, "Look what just arrived," and he handed it to me, and it came straight from England. It's like, what? It's sure enough, the packaging was from Amazon.co.uk. I was like, well, that's weird. He's like, yeah, I have no idea how I ended up getting it from England, but that's where I ordered it from, apparently. So I was like, well, okay. So I opened it up, and of course, it's a region 0.
So you can't watch it.
So I can't play it. And I'm like, well, this is, just inane. So I go through the whole process of figuring out how to return it so I can get a credit, so I can get like a region 1 version. And I figured, okay, Amazon UK, it's the same thing.
Oh, it's not the same thing.
Well, yes, I learned that. So I get this, I go through the process of shipping it back, and I get a credit I have to create an account for Amazon UK.
You have to create a whole new account?
Yeah, because I don't have a way to credit if I don't have an account there.
But then do you have to have, well, I'm sure you're going to get to this. What about the credit card problem? Is there some sort of, do they have to give you, well, you go ahead.
No, it's like a gift card.
Okay,
like
gift card. All right.
Yeah, so basically I have a promotional credit on Amazon UK.
So that you can only get other Region 0 DVDs.
Well, and so I'm looking, I'm like, well, maybe I can just, through that, I can buy a Region 1 from a distributor in the United States and have it shipped to me. Well, yes, I can do that. But for some reason, because I'm ordering from the US, they add on all these extra charges to buy something to actually ship it to myself from the US to the US because I'm ordering it from England. And so I'm like, okay, that's not going to work. This is silly. So I'm like, okay, I'll go through the whole process of doing a chat or call, whatever I can do with Amazon UK to see if I can just transfer the credit over to the US. And so I talked to the person over there, and lovely chap. And he assures me, oh yes, it should be fine. We can't do it on our end. You have to get it done from Amazon US.
What?
Let me send them a note to call you, and then they'll touch base and they'll get this sorted out. So if I get an email, and then it tells me who to call, and so I call and I talk to this person who's just like, no, you can't do that. We're different entities, and there's no way that you can transfer any funds from Amazon UK to Amazon US. And I was like, but the guy just told me that I could.
And he also happens to guard the Queen.
Right, exactly.
There's great authority.
He wears one of those big hats.
It's a big fuzzy hat.
So I couldn't. So the guy wouldn't let me, and so then I called the UK again, and then I called the US again, and finally this guy in the US. I explained the whole situation. I'm like, look, it's my father-in-law. He's old.
He's
he gets on the computer.
He's daft.
He's daft. He has no idea what he was doing. He doesn't know what he's doing on a computer. And he ordered this accidentally from the UK, and I don't live in the UK, and he doesn't live in the UK, and there's no way I'm going to be spending this money in the UK. So the guy was, in Amazon, at least the fourth person in the chain was very understanding. And it was just like, I totally understand. You're a good customer. I'll give you a promotional credit. Look at the exchange rate, give you a promotional credit, so you have the money here. And thanks for being a customer.
Wait, so what does that get? Where can you shop?
Well,
do you still have to shop through Gough?
No, because that was the U.S. guy. So U.S. Amazon gave me a promotional credit.
They just gave you a free thing.
They gave me a free thing. So now I actually have money in both places. So now I've got a promotional credit here.
Because did you actually return the movie?
Oh, I did. I shipped it there so I could get this credit in the UK in the hopes that I could get the credit back to the US. Oh,
that's fantastic. You must have talked to somebody with a bigger fuzzy hat.
I know. It was the US guy.
How do you know they're not wearing big fuzzy hats? Well, it is football season.
That's true. That is true. I should have thought about
that. So I guess, spoiler alert, have you seen the movie?
I still don't have it.
You've seen the movie.
No, I haven't seen the movie.
You've never seen the movie?
Oh, I was hoping to watch the extended edition.
That's enormously disappointing. The story takes on so much more weight, so much more gravitas.
I know. So just give it to him so he can see the movie for peace.
That's a good story, Andy. I'm glad you seem to have resolved that.
Hopefully.
Shall we tell the people where we're from?
Where are we from?
Next Reel, everybody. I'm Pete Wright, and there's Andy Amazon Co-op Nelson.
Good day.
And we spoil movies. Tonight on the show, number 3 in our series on the early works of Sir Alec Guinness with the industrial caper, the man in the white suit. But before we get into that, you should learn more about us at thenextreel.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at thenextreel. And if you fancy yourself savvy and smart as Kelsey Instagrammer, you can join us at instagram.com/thenextreel and play the Instagram hashtag Pony Prize, hashtag Joe Jolie is the new Cameron, hashtag Standy versus the people, hashtag Guess the Movie Challenge.
Wow.
What did you think?
Hashtag we love hashtag.
I'm kind of, I might be screwing myself with that, but I feel like I'm on a roll. What'd you think of my cat? There was not even a chuckle at Kelsey Instagrammer. That's pretty good too, right?
It was pretty good.
How'd we do against the cinematic horde this week, Andrew?
I think you should go out to Kelsey's Twitter account and tweet that to him.
I will never do that.
Okay, good. Probably for the better.
Funny.
We did pretty good again. It was about Image Force about halfway through the week. It was Throw Mama from the Train this week.
Oh, it's one of your favorites.
I actually do love this movie. I would put this in my guilty pleasures camp. I find it incredibly silly.
I find it repulsive.
Oh, really?
I never really liked the movie, but that you like it has now I find you repulsive. No.
No, it's a great movie. It's dark and it's just ridiculously fun to watch. I have so much fun watching it. Billy Crystal and Danny DeVito just do a great job in it. And Joe Jolie, 23, actually 4 images in, figured out the magic combination of images and was able to guess that it is indeed Throw Mom from the Train. And Joe Jolie, 23. is entered to win the Pony Prize.
Joe
2015.
Jolie. Mm-hmm. Nice. Don't forget, if you haven't finished or visited thenextreel.com and clicked on the T-shirt in the corner, you should do it so you can own one of your very own commemorative 2014 top 5 Next Reel T-shirts. I haven't taken mine off since I got it 3 weeks ago.
Is that what that smell is?
That's right. And see, now, while I have no friends and my family has forsaken me, I'm doing my part to educate the world about 5 great films, and it's so worth the sacrifice. American Apparel, it's super soft, designed by friend of the show, Joel and Micah Harris at joemiha.net, and of course, you're supporting the show with every purchase, so we thank you so much.
Hear, hear.
There has been an awakening. Have you felt it?
I have only one other bit of housekeeping. So we did the Black Hat show on the film board last week. Yeah,
right.
And so a couple of hours go by, we released the show, and I get an email from friend of the show, DC Barnes, who says, your review of Black Hat was so bad that I'm now actually charged to go see it. I was going to skip it. Thanks, guys, but failure can be so entertaining in itself. I take that as the highest of compliments. I really do.
Well, we set him up, so he knew exactly what he's going in for.
That's exactly right.
He's looking forward. Right. It's like, oh, good. This is one that I can do my own riff tracks with.
Exactly. And even more fun, DC Barnes is the winner of the Force for Change.
Yeah.
He is now on IMDb. His character has a name.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's sort of mind-blowing. He's right at the very bottom. DC Barnes is Katakoyo.
Excellent.
Yeah. This is now, and he won't tell me this, but now his character has a name. It makes me think his character may actually have lines.
That's exciting.
That's bananas. Every day, more bananas.
So much fun.
I'm so excited I can't even take it.
I'm looking forward to the day when we can have him on the show and actually talk about it.
I know, me too.
It's so mysterious.
Andy, I think it's time. Let's do trailers.
Mine is the heavier of the two. It's It's the one that, we're coming into award season now. It's the one that people need to be aware of. Oh,
no,
dear.
Do go on.
Mine, what can I say? I think I bring up Melissa McCarthy trailers every time one comes out because I laugh every time she's on screen. I have so much fun watching her, even if the movie is terrible. And let's face it, some of them are. And this one probably will be. But I'm going to see it because I'm sure it's going to be a blast anyway. It's Spy, directed by Paul Feig. And, it just looks really funny. She is she's an analyst for the CIA. She sits at a desk and basically is like the phone person who maybe helps some spies or just does desk work. All of the CIA agents are exposed, and so they need someone to go out there. And so they have her go and do it because she's invisible. Nobody knows who she is. And it just, you can see where it's going from there. It's just going to be silliness and tomfoolery. The fact that it's a spy movie with Melissa McCarthy as the spy cracks me up. The fact that it also has Jason Statham and Jude Law in it.
Happened.
As the real spies.
Oh, my goodness.
I think is brilliant. It also has Rose Byrne. Morena Baccarin is in it. Alyssa Janney. Bobby Cannavale. Peter Serafinowicz. 50 Cent turns up in it. I mean, it's one of those things that it's just going to be nonsense. I'm going to totally check my brain at the door when I go in. I'm going to watch the movie and I'm going to have a blast.
When, pray tell, are you going to do that?
I'm going to do that in May 22nd.
Good. So we've got some time to make other plans.
That's right.
Film Oh, please. I love dumb comedies as much as the next guy. I really, really do. And I think the rest of the cast, Morena Baccarin and Rose Byrne and Jason Statham, how they got these guys. And please, Jude Law's in the American English accent is it's really there's a sneeze gag that I actually got a chuckle out of. But I think I don't know. I feel like I've seen this movie.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen Melissa McCarthy in it is the problem. Like, it's not just that I've seen this movie. I'm just tired. I want to see her do something a little different.
Well, she did St. Vincent recently.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. I have not seen that yet, so I'll stop.
So there you go. But anyway, that's right. Mine. So what's yours?
Okay, so I fell for Sean Penn again when I saw him, sitting on the mountainside in The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I think he has aged into his own sense of screen weight in my book, and I really like watching him on screen. So when I saw the trailer for his new film, The Gunman, I got excited. Coming this March, from director Pierre Morel and writer Don McPherson, The Gunman. It's a story of a former special forces officer on the run across Europe to clear his name. Speaking of movies we've seen before, it is this. It's the problem is we've seen it and we've seen it actually done really well. I think though this one that it brings not only Sean Penn but Idris Elba, Ray Winstone, and Javier Bardem. Along for the ride. That I think that makes me even more interested. Pierre Morel has got a long history as a camera operator and director of photography back into the early 90s, but we know him more recently as director of the first Taken film and From Paris with Love. So he's, 1 for 2 on those. Don McPherson doesn't have much to his credit recently, but he was the pen behind 1998's The Avengers with Ralph Fiennes and Uma Thurman. Uma.
Boy, that's a bummer.
So I know, right? So it sounds like I'm not making a really very good case for The Gunman given its pedigree here, but the trailer is chock full of high-octane explosions and seriously brooding looks into the middle distance. So I'm confident that with the right application of popcorn, I'm going to have a terrific time at this film. Opens March 20th, 2015 in the U.S. What do you think?
I think it has some potential in there. I mean, I agree with you about Sean Penn. I think he really has just kind of grown into somebody I find just really interesting to watch on screen. It definitely has an interesting cast. The story, I wasn't convinced that I was going to fall for the story. Kind of like you felt with mine. I felt like this is one I'd seen before. It does have some interesting elements, though. So, I'm thinking maybe they can pull it off, though.
I think for me, we both love Javier Bardem, but Idris Elba is a talent. I am excited about every single thing he does now. He's another one that is just a fantastic screen icon for me. I think he's going to do really great stuff. So,
crossing my fingers that he'll be the next James Bond.
And would that be fantastic?
That would be amazing.
Oh, all right. Okay, Andy.
Yes.
You need a good spanking.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are privileged to witness one of our foremost scientists at work. However, to assure the complete success of this most intricate experiment, he must have absolute quiet. I repeat, absolute quiet.
It shouldn't have done that.
Who'd be a scientist? But if at first you don't succeed, try again.
Mr. Hoskins, it's worked! I've done it! I've got to see Mr. Burnley! I've done it! I've done it! Stop him! Stop him! Sister, what's the trouble? He's mad, that's the trouble.
Alec Guinness, the screen's most versatile star, triumphantly augments his gallery of brilliant film portraits as the man in the white suit. He saw his great discovery as a force for good.
It's more important than anything. It's going to astound the world.
They saw in it a danger to his fellow men and branded it a threat to industry.
We need control of this discovery. Complete control. If you want twice the amount in that contract, we will pay it.
$250,000 to suppress it.
Yes. You're an irresponsible young idiot.
Father, no.
Knudsen!
And you're a pompous and ungrateful old ass.
Oh!
Sydney!
Knudsen!
No, Father!
Knudsen!
If you think I'd give my invention to you, you must be crazy. I wouldn't give it to you if you were the last man on earth. I wouldn't give it to you if you went down on your bended knees and begged me for it. I won't stay in your house another minute.
Andy, 1951, The Man in the White Suit.
Mm-hmm. Same year as the Lavender Hill Mob.
I know. How'd that happen?
Busy year for Mr. Guinness.
And everybody.
Right, and everybody. All these Ealing Studio people.
They were just crank
busy,
them out.
Busy. Yes, they do.
So this, I love this movie. I really do.
Yeah.
I first saw this film in college. It was part of a political science course. And it was one of those where it felt like at the time that my prof was having a tough week and just sort of threw in the towel, put on a movie to kind of let us have at it. But it was years later, and I heard this review by Andy Anatko at the Chicago Sun-Times, and I gave it a second look, and I just fell in love with it. I think this film, in its own way, is a perfect movie. I think there are problems with it, sure, but it is perfect the same way that a triangle is perfect. That each element in this film comes in such equal balance, from these striking visuals to the performances to the sardonic wit and this never-ending chain of satire in the script. And I just love it. It's not as straight-up funny, I don't think, as The Lavender Hill Mob or Kind Hearts and Coronets even. Its humor is much more subversive. The weight of it is shared by Alec Guinness, this misunderstood genius, and textile titan Cecil Parker, and this cast of stereotypes straight off a Monopoly board. The story is really very simple. A scientist invents a new fabric that can never be stained or torn and resists heat to some 300 degrees. And when word gets out, textile bosses at the top come down hard on him, and labor rise up from the bottom to make sure this fabric never goes to manufacturing. And they all fear that if this miracle fabric goes to manufacturing and people start to use it, they'll never need to buy more clothes again, and all the mills will shut down, and there will be chaos reign throughout the land. So the man in the white suit ends up being this celebration of planned obsolescence. It's this thing that we're dealing with very much today, as much as Mackendrick was dealing with through this script in 1951. He systematically lampoons this culture of invention and then manufacturing and then management and then leadership and then the stock market and prostitution and the press. And he does it really so expertly that this film could just as easily have been telling the story of Silicon Valley in 2015 in place of London in the late 40s, early 50s. So I just had a ball watching this film, and I really, really think that more people need to see it. Amen. How'd you feel?
Here.
This is a film that makes me rant a little bit.
I guess so. Well, this is the film, as we mentioned in the past. This is the film that you mentioned to me when you said, "Hey, Andy, I've got this idea of doing a podcast. What do you think? Maybe we can talk about this movie." And I'm like, I've never seen that movie before.
Right.
So I went and watched it. It's like, wow, that's a good movie. So how would we do it? And then for some reason, we didn't talk about it until now. We kind of went off on, well, I think it was because we started creating these series, and that was just when we never, fit it into a series. And until now when we got it into this one. And I have a wonderful time watching this film. There's something that I really enjoy about these early Ealing comedies that we're looking at that all have this kind of stick it to the man or kind of anti-establishment feel to them, which may have been just big in England at the time. They all, so far, these three films all feel that way a little bit. Kind of there's these class systems that they're dealing with. There's just people unhappy with kind of the rigorous system that they're stuck in, and they are trying to find their way out of it. And and then you have Alec Guinness, who it's interesting how in this film he really plays like this perfect rendition of a scientist who's just blind to the world entirely. All he sees is his science. All he sees is the end game that he's trying to achieve, because he's an inventor and he wants to invent this thing. And once he does and succeeds, he wants to get it out into the world. And I think that's the amazing thing about how he plays this character is he is so, I don't want to say naive, but I think blind is really the right word, where nothing else matters. The fact that sales, he doesn't even take into account the fact that people are going to stop buying clothes because they'll have this material that they can basically buy one outfit and will never need to shop again. And he's blind to that fact because he wants to get it out there. He's blind to the fact that the company will go out of business. He's blind to the fact that all of the workers and the unions, all of them will go out of business. And it really, I find it very touching that it's his little landlady at the end who is the one who finally kind of hits him with that moment where it's just like, why don't you scientists leave well enough alone? I can't remember exactly what she says. I have it written down here somewhere. What's to become of my bit of washing when there's no washing to do? And it's like that's her livelihood, and that's the moment that it kind of hits him, which I find really touching. And but then it's also so interesting when a few moments later in the film, when because his suit falls apart, and everybody is excited because they realize that his perfect suit doesn't work. He has that eureka moment again when you think that he figured out what he did wrong that time, and he runs off probably to try it again. And so even though he had that moment of realization there with the landlady, it's like now that clue popped into his head, it doesn't matter anymore. And he's back to just being the inventor who just has to get it out there because that's what he does. And I think Alec Guinness is just brilliant playing this type of character and does so good in this film. And as does everybody else. I think they all work so well for this story. It's so much fun to watch. And you're right. I think more people should check this film out.
To your point on Guinness, I think you're right. He plays the genius perfectly. He carries it out through this goofiness that is really totally absent clumsiness, right? It makes him smart, but not quite so charming as we've seen him in some of the other films. And really, I think, highlights the danger. Like, he is an incredibly dangerous person in this film because he's absent some of the social deference and awareness that comes from his incredible gift, right? The incredible gift of his science and his invention. But still, even though we'd seen him sort of in the first few minutes of the film, he was hiding from the bosses around corners and behind doors, and the first words out of his mouth, they come in the form of this practice session in telling off his boss as he's being fired for the 7th time, looking into a mirror. And it becomes this really satisfying way to introduce us to this character, because it captures, both his individual feigned confidence, but also this sort of collective fear of industry, fear of leadership, fear of judgment, and while he doesn't have a lot of power in the beginning. For the next 20 minutes, we have this great demonstration of the nature of ideas, where we have Sidney, who's now playing a really incredibly good-natured laborer at a textile mill, like the happiest laborer on the mill.
Right.
And there he is working again in the shadows to bring this invention to life, working in the corner, trying to work in subversion and secrecy. I think he plays this so well, because as soon as he invents the thing, he gets it right, and this new fabric comes out, he's ready to change the world, because he is of the belief that new invention will change the world, and some will find pain as a result. But they say the same thing of, Henry Ford. They say the same thing of you name any great inventor who changed the face of industry, and they'll have said the same thing that Sidney would have said about him, that yes, it's going to close down textile mills, and you know what? The world will have to adjust. That's his perspective, and that comes straight in the face of every other class represented in this film. And I think they just do it really, really well.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting to see how that plays out, and just interesting to see how the different people react, and it's it's kind of enjoyable to see the two classes who are typically fighting, the mill owners and the union workers, finally coming together toward the end of the film as they realize they're on the same side. And those moments when they're fighting, but they're fighting about the same thing, and they have those realizations are great. And then like the car ride afterward, when you've got the fancy posh cars from the mill owners, and all of the factory workers jump in so they can go pursue Sidney. And you've got the girl grabs the old man and pulls him in and hugs him while they're driving away. I mean, it's a great little blending of the two classes as they kind of come together as one to fight this common foe, so to speak.
It's one of the things I like so much about it is that it begs you to pick a side. Do you get that feeling as you're watching it?
Well, yeah. I mean, you definitely get the portrait of both sides. You get the portrait of the rich, kind of pompous owners of the factory, and then you also get the portrait. I don't think you get quite as much of the portrait of the workers, but it's definitely there, and they have the people on both sides that you can identify with, so that you can kind of you can kind of pick your side. Which one do you want to side with? And I think it does work that way a little bit.
Well, I think it does, and I would argue that I think we do get a really solid perspective of the workers, particularly as represented by his friend. And I have trouble gauging their relationship. Bertha, she is a friend at the mill and lives in the same boarding house, I guess. In any case, there's a conversation on the stairs where he is so excited. He's escaped, and now he's on the way to Manchester to get on the news media and in the papers and tell them the story. And she says, she says, "Wait, whose side are you on?" And he said, "I'm on your side. We're on the same side. We want to stop. We want to get the word out. And she says, "No, we don't.
Yeah, we don't.
We really, really don't. Because, and I think that moment is another one akin to the moment that you described with Mrs. The woman who runs the house and does the wash." Mm-hmm. Miss Johnson, I think, is that her name? In any case, we get that sense that he is coming face to face with the people who would be directly harmed by his work, and yet, because he's so dangerous, because he doesn't carry, it doesn't stick, he doesn't carry that sense of awareness of the impact of his invention, and he wants to. It just feels like a mob to him. It's just an angry mob that doesn't understand his genius.
Yeah, I think that it comes across that way. And I mean, I think it's interesting also in the way that it's that relationship is you kind of get from Daphne on the other side, Joan Greenwood's character, as kind of she's the daughter of Burnley, Alan Burnley, played by Cecil Parker, the head of the factory where Sidney ends up and spends the last part of the film. But she's definitely on his side, and I think that they play that moment really well when she kind of agrees to all of the bigwigs to kind of prostitute herself out and take some money in order to get him to join the forces, join the dark side, so to speak. And it's a great scene right there, the way that they play her character, and you get to kind of see the darkness of that side, but then how he says, no, I can't do it, I can't run away with you, and then she turns and is like, oh, thank goodness, I was going to slap you if you said yes or whatever. And it's great to see that there's somebody. I think they needed to give us somebody who's kind of on his side, whichever side it was on, whether it was on the side of the factory workers or on the side of the owners, just to kind of have another outlet for him. And it's interesting that it's the daughter of the factory owner, because her world, even though she's kind of in the world of the factory owners, I mean, she lays about, does her nails. It's like
in the middle of complete chaos.
Right. She's not really a worker. She's not really tied into it. She's just very much on the outside, and it's kind of just fun to see her perspective of all of that.
Were you as surprised as I was to see a scene like the one that demonstrates the prostitution in this film?
I thought it was really interesting, and we've talked about good old Dougie Slocombe on a bunch of different shows now. This was the first one where I really noticed first one of these Guinness films that we've been talking about, where he really was playing with the light a little bit. That scene got really dark, like there was a lot of shadows. Joan Greenwood was really kind of hidden in shadow for a lot of that, and it was very kind of mysterious and a little haunting the way that they filmed that to make her seem like a mistress of the dark as she was coming on to him, and those little flits of the eyes as she would like kind of look up at him to see if he was buying it and all that stuff. I thought it was a pretty edgy scene, and I was like, gosh, this is really, and I couldn't remember the movie from when I saw it 3 years ago. I didn't remember how it played out, and I really liked that change that happened after he said, no, I can't run away with you. And it made me, I was happy to see that she really had just been playing these guys the whole time.
Well, I think so, and I found myself really surprised that sequence actually made it into the film in the first place, right? I mean, it just seemed like an incredibly provocative scene to hit the kind of Ealing screen in the 1950s, dealing with just sort of the conservative film board. I was really surprised, particularly because it's super creepy. I mean, it is, these old men are propositioning this woman in the creepiest of creepy old man ways, right? I hardly need to tell you, you are a very attractive girl, and it's so creepy that when she calls them out on it, and she says, this is the line that actually I'm surprised made it into the film. Now, I haven't had much experience with these sorts of things, but I've come to understand that they were comparatively well paid. Right. What else could she be talking about than when she says these sorts of things? And she gets 5,000 pounds out of them, and it's the oldest of the old men that actually agrees to terms. Everybody else is futzing around, and her father is on the phone the entire time. He never has any sense that this has happened, until much later. So, for me, it was just such a surprise in this film, in this era, from this team, that this sort of thing would end up on the screen. And I was super pleased that they went through with it, that they got it, as you say. It was beautifully shot. I mean, it was really beautifully shot. You definitely got the conflict that exists between these two sides, and her position, as she is positioned physically between the door that takes her into, the attic where she can meet with Sidney, and these guys who are looming over her in their sort of creep-tastic way. I just thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's and just everything about that scene really stood out. And also, just to kind of play off of that, once they've once she ends up helping him escape, and she's just lounging in the room, it is very much kind of just, I mean, you would almost expect kind of a cigarette in her hand, almost kind of like that post-coital sort of cigarette.
Nailed it. Yeah. Totally. And I think, I think she ended up pushing the boundary of, what you can do to seduce on screen at the time, in the following sequence when she snuggles right up to him and, she's pushing her chest up to him and leaning her face down against his neck and breathing on him very closely. I mean, it's very sexy. And when she stands up and walks away, and he has such a sort of asexual response, I mean, there's right. There's really no reaction even after, she advances on him. That you really get a sense, again, of just his position and just how strong his position is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really powerful sequence. So fun.
Yeah, it really is.
So, one of the things you already called out the end of the film, as he walks away, I think it's an interesting, as he walks away from his now 7th, 8th job, and he does so having just discovered, because it ends sort of sadly, right? The suit falls apart. It falls apart on him, and you think, oh my gosh, this is the big lesson that we've been leading up to. This is when he's been presented with these data points along the way. The worker and the old grandmother and everybody is presenting their case to him about why he has to be more aware of the impact of his invention on the world, that this is going to really hurt a lot of people. And we've even seen, Alan Burnley, Cecil Parker's Alan Burnley, he has changed over the course of this film. He is really, we've seen him evolve from this really pompous, old man. His position has softened. He now becomes sort of a fighter for Sydney, and he's trying to find a way to be an advocate and a sort of a mediator at the same time. And then the suit falls apart as the angry mob. Thank goodness we had an angry mob in this film. I don't think we could go 3 for 3 without an angry mob. But the angry mob is pulling the suit, literally pulling the threads off of him until he's standing in his underwear and his shirt and tie. And we imagine that is a position of humiliation, right? I mean, that's the sense that you get until he's fired and he walks out the street just a few minutes later, and he has this stroke of brilliance where he thinks, now I know why it was unstable. And that light in his eye turns on again, and he's off to do this again and get it right somewhere else. And so, in fact, Sydney is the one character I think that we see, as all these other characters are moving around him, who doesn't actually change at all in this film.
Yeah, right. He comes close.
Right.
but all he needs is that kernel to kind of get him back on track, and he kind of forgets everything that he was learning and just jumps back into being kind of the scientist again.
Exactly. And isn't that interesting? I mean, we don't talk about this a whole lot, I think, but when we look at the nature of protagonist characters, and as they're, we want them to change the film, right? We want them to grow as we get to the other end. And I think this is one of those films that it is fun to call out because, the main character, the sort of hero character of the film, really doesn't. He's very much a machine as he works, a gear in the film and serves a very clear purpose, but everybody else is changing around him. And I think that's just another really interesting facet of the film.
Yeah, it's tricky to write a script like that where the protagonist doesn't necessarily change. I mean, there might be some growth, but sometimes you'll have a protagonist who does remain steadfast over the course of the film, and they end up changing those around them. And it's definitely a strong way to tell the story, and it works in his case for sure, because he definitely is just a character that I think that type of character, that inventor character, I mean, it really is one that can really stand the test of time. I mean, this is a story that we've heard time and time again. I mean, this is about this white suit that he makes, but we've seen it with when Tucker made his cars, or the car that could go for X number of miles with a drop of gasoline, or the electric car. There's always things that people are inventing, trying to make something better that other people out there try to quash to keep it from getting out there, and because it's going to destroy their industry. And I think it is just it almost, you could say, it is an archetypal character of this person that is focused solely on one thing and will do everything in their power to accomplish it, and then kind of not even barely paying attention to the people in his wake,
Absolutely. There's very much of this Elon Musk vibe to him.
Mm-hmm.
If he were still around, he'd finish the suit. He'd have already invented the perfect electric car, and we'd be in space doing this podcast right now.
Man, that's a bummer. That'd be fun.
There were a ton of really fun characters in this, or actors that popped up in this film.
Oh yes.
Who strikes you?
I just love seeing Michael Gough pop up. It's so strange to me to see a young version of him, because
it is weird.
And it's just me being. He's an actor who has 181 credits on IMDb. I mean, he's done a lot of stuff, and I feel bad that I've seen so few of his films, but mostly I know him as Alfred in the Batman films, and I certainly have always loved him in that role. But yeah, it's just like seeing the young version of him as this mill owner. I think it was so much fun to see.
It was. He was so what's the word? Limber. Like, I'm just really not used to seeing him as just active as he was. As when he's Alfred, he's pretty stiff.
He is pretty stiff. I mean, this
is an old guy.
This was in his first 5 years of his acting career, so it was right at the beginning.
Yeah, it was really fun to see him. He's definitely, when you see him that young, it's a shock, because you know him. Where do you know him? He just needs a tray. If he would have a tray.
Right. I didn't know that he was in The Serpent and the Rainbow.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to watch that again to check him out. And Out of Africa. So, I mean, he definitely is somebody who's been in a lot of stuff. Top Secret. I mean.
Yeah. Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah. I knew he did a lot of the Tim Burton stuff later after Batman. But, it's one of those things where I know I've seen him in other things, but Alfred is what I forever will know him as.
Anybody else jump out at you? You really...
Well, we already talked about Joan Greenwood as Daphne.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that she's great. I just, she's easy to fall in love with when you watch her, because there's just something that's so British about her.
This is my favorite performance of hers. She just strikes me as, or she portrays it as so much more aware of her surroundings, and that she is this woman who is stuck in this, like, between all of these, warring pieces, and she's the only one who really has it together to know what's going on between the lot of them. And so I really enjoy her performance here.
Yeah, I do too. She's just absolutely fantastic. Cecil Parker, I just love watching him. I think he's so great as this kind of uptight, flustered British businessman. He just plays that so well. And we'll see him. We'll talk about him next week in The Lady Killers. But The Lady Vanishes, I think, is where I most remember him. He was in that, and I think Under Capricorn with Hitchcock. But Lady Vanishes is the one that his face just is burned into my brain from that film.
Absolutely. I don't think there was anybody else actually off the top. After Michael Gough, I think I was satisfied.
Yeah, I mean, Vita Hope, who played Bertha,
mm-hmm.
She's just one of those people that I recognize, although I don't know what else I may have seen her in. She didn't. I mean, she started in the 30s. Oh, she was an usherette in the 39 Steps. Look at that. So maybe I recognize her for that. But I mean, looking through her filmography, I don't know if I've seen her in anything else. But she just seems familiar. She only worked from the 30s to the 60s.
Only the 30s to the 60s.
I know. Just she's slacker.
Yeah, but I'm with you. She is definitely one that I just know. I know the face, but
yeah, exactly. And that's it for the cast. I mean, there's obviously a lot of other great faces in there and everything, but those are the ones that stood out to me.
How did Alexander Mackendrick do this round? He both wrote and directed.
Yeah, this is it's based on a play by Roger McDougall, who is actually Alexander Mackendrick's cousin, and so they co-wrote it along with John Dighton. They wrote the screenplay and ended up getting nominated for an adapted screenplay Oscar, although they lost to The Bad and the Beautiful. But I think Mackendrick did a great job with the film. I mean, like I said, already mentioning Doug Slocombe and his cinematography, I think there was a level of the way they were playing with some of the light and everything in this film that I thought was really nice. And I just liked the way that Mackendrick directed a lot of the scenes. The fight scenes, I thought, had some fun choreography to them. The
fight and the chases,
and the chases, yeah. And even just like the musical nature of the little machine that Sidney invents to kind of create his magic fabric, I think is just so much fun. It kind of ends up kind of getting this fun little beep boop beep boop beep sort of beat thing going on, and it's just kind of I don't know. It reminds me of something that I would have seen on Sesame Street.
Yeah, and what's funny about that? It's he's making a perfect fabric. And the machine to make the perfect fabric ends up having a perfect meter to its bubbles and beeps and whirs. It's something you can like tap your feet to. It is perfect, and the lighting is perfect. They end up flashing lights across it. You can see these little spots going across it to sort of indicate movement on the machine, and I think it ends up being really, really cool. And I am deeply curious how they ended up making what sort of trickery they used to make the liquid cloud so quickly. That's really cool.
Yeah,
little sweet little chemistry trick. I love chemistry tricks on
very
film.
Fun.
Yeah.
All that stuff was fun. But Mackendrick, he has been in Ealing Studios for a few years. He did Whiskey Galore in '49, and then he's going to be doing The Lady Killers, which we'll be talking about next week. Yeah. And then he left England because Ealing Studios, the film business there, kind of slowed a little bit. So he went back to America, where he's from, and directed Sweet Smell of Success, which actually we're going to be talking about later, I think in June.
Yes, indeed.
And then he ended up going back and forth between England and the U.S. and ended up just teaching. I think he ended up kind of the head over at California Institute of the Arts for a little bit. So,
and sadly passed in '93.
'93, yep.
Yeah. Music by Benjamin Frankel.
Mm-hmm.
Another really brilliantly frenetic orchestral score. I had a great time with the music. I think it fits very, very well, particularly through the chase scenes.
Yeah, it does work well, and I don't know how much if he had any hand in the kind of the tones for the
beep boops,
the beep boop, the machine. But it, like we said, it did have this musical nature to it. But it just the way that the music all worked. I mean, sometimes it did feel like it kind of evolved from that sound a little bit. So I liked that quite a bit.
I wanted to talk just a little bit about the suit and, the nature of this film. Obviously it was in black and white.
Yes.
But, we talked so much about Slocombe.
Yeah.
And I think, once again, the visuals in this film are fantastic. There are some wonderful, examples of great composition. The suit, the gimmick of the suit, right? It's that it's this newfangled fabric, is that it's slightly radioactive.
Right.
Which means that it glows for a while. So when you put it on, we've got Guinness running around the city in a bright, bright white, glowing white suit. And it is, on its own, it's very, very funny. But I really wonder if it would play as well in color. I was thinking about, what if somebody were to take this and remake it, and just keep with the suit as the metaphor. Part of the reason I think it works so well visually is that the white is such a brilliant point on screen that we can't help but laugh at the gag moments, right? Sidney hiding in the bushes, trying to get a bag on himself, for example. I think the color treatment or a remake would just remove a really key element of the storyline, which is the contrast between the highlights and the shadows relating to this suit. And I think he had a lot to work with, but it's a movie that, maybe this one of the reasons that it hasn't been remade in this way is that you just can't quite capture the magic in color.
Yeah, I think that's probably 100% on the mark. I mean, this was an interesting one where the suit they had, from what I found, they had no fewer than 14 different suits that they would alternate, because even though in the story it's this suit that it resists dirt and can't be destroyed, obviously in the real world it's not going to be that way, so they had to have a whole bunch of backups because it would get dirty because it was this brilliant white. And so they would have to change Alec Guinness periodically to make sure that it always looked pristine. There were a couple of them that were treated luminously, so they would actually glow when the light would hit him. And so you get that extra brilliant. And those, I think, were the ones when it would show like his face, and his face was obscured in the darkness a little bit, but the suit was just popping on the screen. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there were the ones that they had to destroy at the end, and they had to figure out a way to actually tear these things apart. And they went through all these different tests trying to find a suit that they could treat so that when people grabbed it, it would rip apart the way that it did. And they were having a really difficult time trying different acids and all sorts of things. And I guess in the end, they found they basically built the suit out of paper tissue. And they said it was incredibly difficult to do. And it actually, the suit cost 10 times as much as a regular suit cost to make it out of this paper tissue. And then they had to make, gosh, how many of them did they have to make? I can't remember. They had to make 9 paper suits in order to do all the retakes and the different shots. And it had to be so carefully done with just a big opening so that Alec Guinness could basically kind of step into it. They would kind of put it over him, and then they would just start shooting and tear it up.
That was a pretty good sequence.
It's great.
It makes me think of the horrible Kick the Kid Hollywood movie that I can't ever remember the name, that I've totally blocked the name of that we did. What was that?
I don't know. You're not helping me with the Kick the Kid thing.
Oh, there's that beating in the parking lot at the end. Everybody goes crazy. It was a movie about Hollywood that had...
Day of the Locust.
Yeah, Day of the Locust. Yeah,
right.
It had that sort of vibe, but not quite even so hateful. But it was that sort of vibe at the end when the mob catches him.
What's so great about that, though, is that's the last thing that you're expecting.
Yeah.
Because you have this mob surrounding him. You think that it's a perfect suit, and it just plays so nicely because you just don't see it coming. You think that something else is going to happen, then all of a sudden the guy grabs him and just a handful of the suit comes off in his hand, and that, I think, is such a great surprise.
It is. I love, I think that gets to why another reason I love the movie so much is that the appreciation of science, that for example, he at the beginning runs into the young Miss Burnley and says, do you know about the ionization of polymers? And she says, no. Then she goes and dives into books to learn about them, right? She goes and educates herself in science so that she can have a conversation with both the scientist, Sydney, and her father, and talk about, what is the rational point of ionizing polymers? Why would we want to do this? And it ends up really becoming a tentpole figure in leading to the resolution of this thing. And the fact then that we go in and the script and the suit falls apart because the radioactive particles are unstable, I think it's just a brilliant. It's like a punchline to the end of a great science joke that they start in the first act, and I just love it.
Yeah, I completely agree. So remember the scene when Sydney needs to escape, and so he descends down the side of the house on a piano wire.
Yes, he repels
on the side of
supposedly
the house.
On a string of the magic thread.
Right, exactly. So when I watch this, I always think that it's like basically kind of an old school effects shot where it's matted in and he's actually just walking backward, but the camera is sideways and they're filming it. But point of fact, they actually did this. It's a real stunt, and they actually had Alec Guinness descending the side of a house on a length of piano wire. And I guess that he was not too thrilled about this. He said, all it takes is one tiny kink in that wire, and it'll snap, and I will plummet down to the ground. Well, I guess they said, no, it's fine. They checked the wire, and it was fine. And they actually lowered him down the side of the building, and they filmed him doing that. And I guess the wire did break, but he was just only about 4 feet off the ground, and so he didn't go very far. And Alec Guinness's comment afterward was, or he said in his autobiography, he said, "No one apologized. They rarely do in films."
Oh, Alec.
Just a wonderful,
yeah.
They got the shot. That's all they cared about.
That's right.
Which sounds so true.
Really true.
Yep.
Are you comfortable? Nobody cares.
Right.
Call your mother.
Which also harkens back to the Day of the Locust, oddly.
Yes, it does.
Oh, so some people died on set. As long as we got the shot.
Did we get the shot?
We had the insurance, yeah.
Well, for this film, for me, I think there are so many reasons to watch this film, but I think it really is the most, it is the most palatable look at a really contemporary problem told in a very charming way. And I just love all the way that it approaches the culture of innovation and manufacturing and labor, and I think it's a complex political caper film that is really entertaining to watch. And of course the Guinness is great, but it's I think the heart of the film that makes it really worth watching.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that would be my recommendation. Is this is a great film that has an interesting message that I think still stands the test of time. It doesn't feel dated in any way, shape, or form. It's still a lot of fun to watch. It's a very fun movie. You're right. It's not as funny as the other ones, but there's something about the edginess of the story. I feel it's trying to actually do something a little bit different and actually say something a little grander than the other films. So I definitely would recommend this one. It's BFI put it in their best 100 British films. Actually, all of these films that we're talking about, these Ealing are on the list. So it's definitely one worth checking out.
I say we rank it.
Let's do it.
Head over to flickchart.com/thenextreel, and you can see how all of our films are stacking up. We're getting up there. Really getting up there. So let's see if it cracks the what? Jeez. I've got on a limb. I'm going to say 45.
45, all right. Let's see if it does. The Man in the White Suit or Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Man in the White Suit.
Really?
Yep.
Well, I have a feeling you're going to fight me on that one, so I'll just go with you on it.
I say that with the firm confidence of a 10.
That's right. I could tell. I could tell. The Man in the White Suit or City of God?
I'm going to fight myself on this one, Andy. Jeez.
Yeah. Because I think I'm City of God on this one.
Yeah, I think I'm City of God on this one, too.
All right.
Oh, well.
The Man in the White Suit or 28 Days Later?
Man in the White Suit.
I would say Man in the White Suit also. The Man in the White Suit or The Prestige?
I would say The Man in the White Suit.
So would I. The Man in the White Suit or The Big Lebowski? I would say The Big Lebowski.
I would say The Man in the White Suit. Shall we?
Okay.
All right, ready? All right, here we go.
All right.
1, 2, 3, scissors.
Rock.
Damn.
The Man in the White Suit or Being There?
The Man in the White Suit.
Really?
Yeah.
Man in the White Suit. Why that one not Being There?
I do love Being There, but I think Being There is, for me, again, if I go to what movie would I just want to put on? As much as I love Being There, it requires more work for me, and I think that the sort of charm and wit and the fun of watching Mackendrick and Guinness lampooned so many industries that I follow so closely today. It's kind of a no-brainer.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
All right.
I think that, because it does seem like a little bit of work sometimes on being there, as much as I love it.
Yeah.
The Man in the White Suit or An American Werewolf in London?
Man in the White Suit.
I don't know, man.
Really?
Werewolf London.
Werewolf London. But hey, we've got Go Britain.
Yeah.
I have to go back. I have to tell you, this is why I wanted to start this podcast with you. How can I vote any other way?
I know. I'll give it to you. I'm going to give it to you. This is like you giving me all my Brazil pity votes. Okay, there you go. Number 48.
Oh,
You got close. You got close, man. If you beat me on Big Lebowski, it would have been there.
Yeah. Well, this is on you then.
It is.
You have to go to sleep tonight. That was great fun. That really was a treat. I'm so glad we did this film, and it is just really fun to watch. Thank you thanks for hanging in there with me on this. I guess we could sort of close up shop on the show now.
That's right. We finally got it out of our system.
Yeah. If only we didn't have 3 years worth of movies on our list to talk about.
No, I know.
Where do we go from here?
Well, like I mentioned, we're going to be doing another Alexander Mackendrick film. We're going to do Lady Killers.
The Lady Killers. I look forward to that too. I haven't seen that in a very, very long time.
I've only seen the remake, so I'm looking forward to seeing it just so I can see. Because, like John Patton Ford mentioned when we talked to him about Kind Hearts and Coronets, it sounds like it's pretty much kind of a shot for shot remake. So I'm really curious to see how this one holds up. I mean, I'm one of those people. I'm a Tom Hanks fan. I have despite the problems of the Coen's Lady Killers, I still enjoy it. Even if it's one that I don't go back to regularly. So I am excited to see this one and just kind of see how similar the two of them are.
Me too. So that's where we're going to go. Thanks everybody for listening, and until next week, I gotta go to bed.
All right, I'm going to study up on polymerizing some amino acid residues.
Mine is a 3-star, which we should say is officially the bottom of the barrel. It goes no deeper than 3 stars. There are no 1 and 2 star reviews for this film. That's a great thing, right?
Absolutely.
Shut up. Stop talking. Mine is from Movie Buff in Las Vegas, Nevada. A clever premise for a comedy, but paced much too slow. You might need someone to wake you up to find out how it ends.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. That's as hateful as they get.
Man, yeah.
So, Movie Buff, well, maybe it's just having an off day.
Yeah.
What's yours?
Or just we're sleepy.
Maybe he has a sleep problem. Maybe he needs some sort of a sleep test.
That's right.
Maybe he's got
sleep
apnea. I think it's an apnea.
Well, mine is a 5-star review.
Oh, straight to the top.
By D. Pedden, who says, "What a wonderful film. Very amusing and unique performances from a cast of characters. The plot is very unusual. Excellent dress and sets." I like how D. Pedden kind of just tried to hit a wide variety of things. The cast, the plot, even going to the dress and the sets.
dress and the sets. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Well done.
And the plot is very unusual. I think that's a very interesting way to review the plot for this.
Yes, and thorough.
Very unusual. Yeah. Very thorough. Interesting choice of words and very thorough with them. Very amusing and unique performances. And the plot is very unusual.
I'd like to see her review of Requiem for a Dream.
Can we request? let's start requesting. Would you go watch this and write a review?
I loved your review. I loved your review of The Man in the White Suit. Have you reviewed any other movies about clothes? Is there a movie about hats? Because I'm interested in hat films. I would love your take on them, Deepedden.
That's fantastic.
Andy, it is hard to believe that we have been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
You are telling me. Producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
I love The Next Reel Season 4. Do you know why?
I don't. Why?
Because we got to talk about my favorite movie, Terry Gilliam's Brazil.
That's not even an adaptation.
No, but it was such a great part of our great Terry Gilliam series, and a few others in that series were adaptations, like The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, adapted from Raspi's stories, and La Jetée, which inspired 12 Monkeys.
Oh, right. And for our Man with No Name trilogy, we saw how Sergio Leone's A Fistful of Dollars was basically stolen from Kurosawa's Yojimbo.
We added Labor Day to our Jason Reitman series, adapted from Joyce Maynard's novel.
Oof, there's one we'll always regret.
Our big Stephen King series covered adaptations like The Shining, Cujo, Christine, and Stand By Me, great horror and coming-of-age tales.
Another Coen Brothers adaptation, too. We got to talk about how they turned Homer's The Odyssey into Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou?
For our holiday series, we did The Bishop's Wife and The Poseidon Adventure.
And who could forget seeing Alec Guinness in the adaptation of Kind Hearts and Coronets during our series dedicated to him.
We really need to do more of his films.
Truly.
We had our first film noir series with classics like Double Indemnity, Detour, and Out of the Past.
And our black and white cinematography of James Wong Howe series with The Thin Man, Sweet Smell of Success, Seconds, and King's Row. So many adaptations.
Oh, you're not kidding. Dive deeper into these originals and more at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book you buy helps support our show.
Get the full list at thenextreel.com/originals and start reading today.